It's about time we got a brand new article for Assassin's Creed Shadows, this time parkour. We don't see any parkour of Yasuke, it's completely purely Naoe. Now they do state that Yasuke can do parkour, but they don't show it, which is going to further lead into the speculation that he barely can do any parkour. He can really just climb ladders and run across rooftops. They won't show us, I don't know why. Let's see what we've got. I'm currently in the process of moving apartment right now, and because of that, we're moving a lot of stuff today. So the heating in my apartment is off and I am freezing. If you look closely, now, I'm going to leave the link to the parkour article in the description. I won't be reading it word for word here because that will be very boring, but I'm going to show you guys the gameplay itself and any important bits of information we need to cover. Then we'll top it off with sort of my opinion on what I think we've seen. So Ubisoft showed us the new control scheme for Assassin's Creed Shadows. It's pretty much the same as any RPG Assassin's Creed game. You fight with your triggers, you hold A to climb, that sort of thing. However, there is one big difference. They've switched around the buttons for crouching and dodging. They say this is because you're going to use dodging as a way to parkour down. Apparently, if you want to be much stealthier and lighter on your toes to evade the detection of enemies, you'll like dodge as you go to jump down from a building, and that's when Naoe does her flip. And again, that's how you do it much more stealthy rather than if you were to just leap off of a building. So off the bat, I don't like parkour in the RPG games. However, at least there's an extra level of, I guess, nuance to the parkour. Again, not as much as it used to have, but they are trying here to make it a bit more intuitive, make you, as a player, actually think about how you're going to jump, how you're going to climb, and that sort of thing. And I do appreciate that. Now, we see a clip of Naoe parkouring up. She runs onto a building, she starts sprinting pretty fast, she jumps off, and that's the dodge roll without the stealthy leaps. Now, there is something to point out here, and we do see this in following clips that we will see later. It seems that Naoe can boost, she can speed up her run, which is a good thing because assassins, shinobis, they are fast. They run fast, they are very agile. Now, a thing that we saw in earlier gameplay was that Naoe was not fast at all. They didn't sprint, they just jogged, right? So now we're seeing what happens when you actually sprint, and it does seem to be more in line with what we as players want to see with an Assassin's Creed character, so that's a good thing. Naoe also is able to sprint dodge, so when she gets this run up, she's running fast, she can dodge over barrels, she can dodge out windows, and she can keep going. It keeps that momentum going. The more gameplay we see for Naoe in Shadows, the more I start to think, okay, this is a reimagination of what the parkour in Assassin's Creed is. We've always known it to be what it used to be in the OG games, to sort of devolve into what it's been in like Valhalla and Mirage, for example. And now Shadows is saying, okay, let's rethink this. Let's forget the intricacies of the older games. Let's forget what we attempted to do with Unity and Syndicate. And let's build off of this devolved system that we have and try and evolve it in a different direction. And to be honest, if you've got to work with a terrible parkour system, they're not doing a bad job. Now, in my opinion, they should, of course, work from the ground up on a completely new parkour system and have those intricacies that we've had before, but balance it out with the style and finesse of like Unity, for example, and then layer on your own character's style for the time period they're in, the type of personality they have. I would say that's how to make a good parkour system, but again, I'm not trying to shit over this too much because it is definitely a step up from what we've seen, and it does look like they're actually trying to make something out of the parkour system. Again, something they did not do with Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla. Those were completely sidelined. So to see there being a more of a focus on parkour in Shadows is never a bad thing. Now, I do still have my gripes with grappling hooks. It sounds like the Ubisoft added the grappling hook because lots of Shinobi games have the grappling hook. I think this is always going to take away from the need for parkour. Parkour's a big thing in Assassin's Creed, and they're still trying to make parkour a big focus in Shadows, albeit in its own new style. But yeah, I just think the grappling hook, as you can see on screen now, is just going to take away from what they're trying to do with parkour. They've also talked about how some walls can cannot be scaled by Yasuke or Naoe because they're smooth, they have no handholds. And I think what we see in this gameplay being this cragged, smooth kind of wall, if that's what you want to call it, this would probably be the surface that Naoe and Yasuke cannot climb. So they in turn use the grapple hook to get up there anyway, but that literally eliminates the need for having handholds or not having handholds in certain places in the first place. Having a handhold or not having a handhold on a wall in the older Assassin's Creed games, like the Ezio trilogy for example, would mean if you can't climb up that building because there's no handhold, then you're going to have to find a different route. And it was more of a platformer. You'd have to figure out your way to the top, and it was quite intuitive. In a game like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla, you could just scale up any type of surface, any rock, any building, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how smooth it looks, doesn't matter how cragged it looks. You're gonna get to the top if you just hold A and push up on the thumbstick. Now, again, in Shadows, they're trying to go for a more, look, you know, you can't climb all buildings and surfaces, only some. But again, when they're adding this grapple hook, it's like, well, that doesn't matter because you can go up that building or surface anyway with the grapple hook. Am I yapping? Am I rambling? Probably. Moving on. Saying that, I do like what we see in this footage using the grapple hook. It very much reminds me of Ghost of Tsushima, when you can swing and grapple to different areas that you couldn't do without the grapple hook. Again, this adds to a layer of exploration, which I do like in games. You know, there's some player agency here. You actually have to think. You're not just going to run straight ahead on your horse, just sprint in one line until you get to your objective. That has been a problem in past Assassin's Creed games, especially in the RPG trilogy. So Shadows looks to be maybe tackling this with the grappling hook. This could obviously be a very much story-centric moment in the open world, and you don't go back here in the open world and the rest of the open world is boring, empty, and bland, but we don't know that. And from what we're seeing here, it does look like the open world, again, has a bit more thought put into it than other previous open worlds in the AC series. Obviously, I'm always going to prefer that cityscape, that urban setting for an Assassin's Creed, but just purely, objectively exploring, coming across little nooks and crannies like this, and then thinking, okay, how am I going to get over there? Oh, I can use my grapple hook, swinging over, and maybe before you even unlocked your grapple hook, this might be an area that's locked off to you, or you might have to figure out another way to get there. So again, more player agency and evolution in gameplay if you do get your grapple hook later on. I'd see that as a good thing. Objectively, again, subjectively, give me my cities. I want to explore my cities. I want to do parkour without a grapple hook, but objectively, yeah. Now we see backwards drop assassination. Naoe does her stealthy dodge flip down and she assassinates an enemy. It's exactly the same as what we saw when Naoe stealthily dodge jumped her way down earlier, but now we're seeing how you can tie that in with being stealthy, how the enemies won't hear you when you jump like this, and then assassinating them. I'm assuming if you were to jump down without doing the flips, the enemy would then hear you, turn around, and you'd probably be in a fight. So again, there's a layer of intuitiveness here that makes the player actually think, okay, how am I going to approach this? How am I going to climb? How am I going to sneak? We see some nice gameplay of Naoe running. She does a little flip. She then drops down into a bale of hay. Now, what I like about this is the animation of the hay in itself. The way the hay straws shoot out. It's not realistic, of course, but nor is jumping in hay. You would break your back and you would die. You would game end. So forget realism. This looks like a nice animation. It's a step up from the animations of Leaps of Faith that we've seen before. And yes, it's nice. Moving on. So that's everything we saw when it comes to new footage for Assassin's Creed Shadows, specifically parkour. What do you guys think? Comment below your thoughts. So leading into what I said earlier, of course, this is not the approach of parkour that I'm ever going to prefer in Assassin's Creed. You guys know me. I'm much more an enjoyer of AC1 through Revelations, and I dabble a little bit with Unity's parkour, but the OG games are my bread and butter when it comes to parkour. So anything that strays away from that is of course going to like irk me a little bit, but you know, it is what it is. If I'm going to be objective though, again, it looks more streamlined than what we've seen in the last few entries in the series. Again, it looks like they're actually trying something here. They're actually trying to evolve it to be better than what we've had before, just in a different direction than what most expected, I would say. A bit of credit I will give the devs is that they're seamlessly trying to blend parkour with stealth, such as when you stealthily flip off of a building. You have to actively think to do that. Again, they're actively trying to put parkour and stealth in tandem with one another, and that's not really something we've seen done in this way in Assassin's Creed before. So I am all for that. When it comes to purely a stealth game, I'm gonna really enjoy the addition, the interweaving of the way they're doing their parkour in this way. So I'm almost in like two minds with it. I'm never gonna prefer this over what I like about parkour in the older games. However, I'm not saying it looks bad. There still is a complete lack of precision in where you're going to climb. There's no side and back ejecting. Of course, there's a lot of layer of depth to parkour that we just don't get in Assassin's Creed games anymore. And we definitely, sure for shit, don't have it in Assassin's Creed Shadows. But again, like, why I say I'm in two minds is because I'm not necessarily hating what I see. I think it's very much like we know what came before. If Assassin's Creed Shadows parkour system was in a new IP, was in a game by a different developer, there was no sort of prior knowledge of how good a parkour system could be in the same series, I would very much be like, well then, yeah, this is sick, I'm loving what I see, because I don't have that prior feelings and adoration for an older parkour system that I know I'm never gonna get back. So again, I am very much in two minds. And that's about it really. I think Ubisoft should definitely be showing trailers for this, showing this stuff in TV spots, really getting people gassed, excited to play Assassin's Creed Shadows. Because look, all of us who are very much interweaved in the Assassin's Creed community, the AC fandom, we're going to be reading these articles, we're going to be watching these clips, we're going to be dissecting them, but the sort of mainstream broad level of gamers aren't even reading these, aren't getting any Assassin's Creed Shadows information, and they're just not going to be hearing about this. They're not going to be getting hyped for this game. I don't care about that, you know, who cares? But what I'm saying is, from a business standpoint, Ubisoft are just doing all the wrong things. They're showing articles that, yeah, YouTubers will cover. Most of you guys won't read because you'll be watching my video, which I get. And the majority of people aren't going to bother reading, so they're like screaming into the void almost, a little bit. I understand that Ubisoft will have a less of a marketing budget likely due to the financial struggles they're going through right now, so that makes sense. But if you want this game to absolutely bang, start hyping it up, you know, do some trailers. Something I really think they should do is, you know, we got that 7-second clip of different scenes in Assassin's Creed Shadows as almost like a teaser before Christmas. Well, they need to do variations of that every week with one more little scene or something different. It adds to it, it builds to it. And at the end of the trailer, it says however many weeks left until the game releases. It builds up that hype. More mainstream people are going to see that. More mainstream people are going to get hyped. They might do this within the next couple weeks, and then it's like, well, yeah, I guess my point's kind of moot at that point. But what still does stand is that they definitely should have done this sooner, and they're not doing it. This is terrible marketing. It's fun for us to read and speculate, but on a business standpoint, it's terrible marketing. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Do you like what you see with this Assassin's Creed Shadows parkour? On the mind of, this isn't really what you expected, and it isn't on the level of depth as you expected. Let us know in the comments. We'll get a conversation going and build that AC community. You will likely see quite a few more videos in this setup, the boring white backgrounds, until I've moved to a new apartment. Then it's going to be more interesting. I can put stuff on the walls. Well, we already have stuff on the walls in a new place, actually. It's going to be more fun, but I don't know when we're actually going to be over there recording, because obviously I'm going to move my Wi-Fi, my desktop stuff at the last minute, because I don't know how long it's going to be before my Wi-Fi can get properly installed in a new place. It's going to be a bit of a mishmash. I'm going to be you know how it goes. It is what it is, isn't it? It's time for me to go get a Big Mac now. I love you guys. May the Father of understanding guide us. It's actually true. I'm going to go get one. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.